When playing a video game, the general consumer lasts a rather short while, and then moves on to the next big game that comes out. This is why a new Call of Duty or sports game comes out every single year. Why is this? In almost all contemporary games, you have rapid growth at the beginning of the game. The games are designed this way to target the part of the brain that handles reward function. Phone apps exploit this of the human mind by giving you free items, power-ups, anything, and plenty of it upon starting. And once this rush of enjoyment starts to wither, the player usually will pay money to keep that rush alive. Battle Royales exploit this by having the loot be different colors to show rarity. When you see something that's really rare, your mind is flooded with dopamine. For instance, the first time I ever got a golden gun in Apex, I was ecstatic. I didn't even know it was possible for guns to spawn gold. But after playing for a long time, don't you start to crave another gold item? MOBAs do the exact opposite of this. They have such an intense player entry barrier that new players may feel overwhelmed, and matches take an upward of 20 minutes to an hour on average to complete. This extreme time commitment coupled with the difficulty is what seriously hurts the MOBA genre. Perhaps you thought to yourself that a MOBA sounds fun, and you'd be willing to give it a try, but you have no idea where to begin, who to play with, what to do, etc. Wouldn't it be nice if you could miraculously know all the information that a MOBA requires you to know to play properly? That sounds pretty nice, and if you end up not liking it, then no time was wasted. This is where the issue lies. The fear of dedicating your time and energy into something new that you know will be difficult and challenging is a task that is too daunting for most people. It is so simple to keep playing your favorite quick game that all your friends play, and you don't want to be that guy that drags everyone away. Look, I get it. How can we overcome this barrier? How can we make it as easy as possible for new players? Almost every video game has a tutorial of some sort. The unfortunate problem is that they're almost always uninformative, hidden, worthless, or flat out non-existent. There are plenty of examples of games that handle their tutorial well, but what they all have in common is that they engage the player in a way that is stimulating and fun. That way new players can get as much satisfaction as possible because they think they're doing something incredible. While learning, players need to be having a great time. This point is essential. MOBAs have bots that you can train against, but oftentimes don't require the player to fight them, or even tell them that it's an option. For example, Smite has a bot training mode on its own tab, and unless the player explores, they have no idea what it means because it's called practice. Obviously, you'd be attracted to the word practice, but the game doesn't direct the player's attention here or do anything to tell you what it is. Being unfamiliar with League of Legends and Dota 2 entirely, I thought I'd dive headfirst into these games to see how they handle their new players. Here is my experiment in MOBA tutorial issues. In order to form a proper basis of analysis, I started in my home turf for the Smite tutorial, and I'll be comparing its strengths and weaknesses with the others. Smite's tutorial does a lot of things right. Things such as buying items, pings on the map, lines on the floor to guide the way, clearing camps, attacking, how to back, how to position yourself as a hunter, how to use their abilities, all of the information regarding Arena's ticket system, and more. I was extremely impressed with this tutorial because it is much more updated than the tutorial that I played on when I first joined Smite 6 years ago. Unfortunately, there's still some minor nitpicks I have with what it teaches the new players. First, the starter build is awful. It has you buy a level 1 light blade, meditation, and a health pot. The health pot is good, but a level 1 light blade and meditation is a terrible starting build. I know they did it because the tutorial needed to perfectly have the player reach enough gold to finish the item in order to teach the player how to finish items, but they should just give the player more gold when that time comes around. It is a tutorial after all. A much more reasonable starting build begins with Hunter's Blessing. They created these starter items specifically for the sake of guiding new players, and they don't even have you purchase it during the tutorial. We'll keep the light blade for the example, even if I disagree with it. Hunter's Blessing and Light Blade is okay. Instead of meditation for the relic, I suggest Aegis. Too many new players buy meditation on gods who shouldn't have it because of this tutorial. Aegis makes the user immune to damage for a short while. This is important because the new player needs to understand that a well-timed Aegis can be the difference between winning the fight or not. Now I understand a brand new player doesn't have the god knowledge to know how to perfectly time it, but if they waste their time thinking that meditation is good on a hunter, then that will hurt them in the long run. I have more to discuss, but I'll return to Smite later in the video. The next game I had played was League of Legends, and let me start with this. Wow. Incredible. This game's tutorial left me feeling sorry for new players. How did anybody make this tutorial and think to themselves that this was where a new player can come to learn how to play the game? League has 3 tutorials that are supposed to be designed to teach the player more complex things as they play the 3 matches. This sounds great, except it didn't teach me anything. The first tutorial, Learning the Basics. This tutorial was probably the best tutorial of the 3, and that's a tragedy. It taught me a total of 2 things, right click to move, and to kill the Nexus to win. Okay. It didn't tell me how to use my abilities or how to fight with them. Granted, the letters corresponding to the keys are on the screen blatantly, but this should still be a point of discussion. I figured out on my own how to level abilities, and that if you hover it with your mouse, it tells you what it does. The second tutorial, Leveling Abilities. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. It teaches you how to level your abilities. Something that should have been done in learning the basics. From my relative knowledge about League, I know I should be able to buy items, but it had me play an entire match with no one else in it without teaching me how to buy items. I eventually figured out you can press B to back and bought myself from items because it was painfully boring trying to push the towers with no damaging items. This tutorial didn't teach me anything because I figured out how to level my abilities in the first tutorial. This could have easily been combined with the first tutorial and absolutely nothing would have changed. I was not having fun during this tutorial. I had a lot of fun in the first tutorial, but this one was a waste of my time. Player exploration is incredibly important, especially in a tutorial, but not like this. Forcing me to figure out new mechanics on my own because of its incompetence is really bad. The third tutorial, Item Shop. Finally! I get to learn how the item shop works. I was so excited to learn about what the stats mean, why it's important to be building them in the first place. None of that happened. All it tells you is that you can press P to open the shop. Are you kidding me? It didn't even tell me how to navigate, what to buy, how to get gold, nothing. I played through an entire other League bot match having learned nothing, and I wasted my time. Overall, League's tutorials left a lot to be desired. All 3 of the tutorials should have been condensed into one, or at the very least the last 2 could have been condensed into one. The lack of new information between the 3 tutorials was jarring, and it makes me wonder how anybody signed off on this. Luckily for me, a few of my friends play League, and they taught me how to do everything else that I need to know about the game in order to play. You know, minor things like last hitting minions, warding, when to back, when to buy, what to buy, positioning, how jungle grass works, how to counter jungle grass camouflage. You see my point. And this is why League's tutorial is in serious need of fixing. Things such as positioning and how to ward efficiently cannot be logically taught in a tutorial, but at least a mention about it, like Smite does, would have been appreciated. I enjoyed my time in League extensively, and I look forward to playing some more with my friends, but I'm sad that my knowledge of MOBAs had to carry me through this learning experience. I could only imagine how a new player feels when they see the awesome League of Legends ads and want to play, only for their first game to get absolutely destroyed by Smurfs and bad matchmaking. That must be soul-crushing, and if you're a new player, then I urge you to bring your friends along for this endeavor, or seek out a group of people who are willing to teach you, because the tutorial won't. Finally, I arrived at Dota 2. I was not expecting much out of this game. It's known to be the most complicated and unforgiving MOBA for new players, and that reputation alone has caused me to dread playing this. But I was surprised at how much the tutorial actually did to help me learn. With luxuries such as pop-ups, something that League clearly didn't know existed, I was able to absorb all the information I needed because it was laid out right in front of me. It taught me what the fountain was, the artifact, the shop, how to move, fight, use abilities, last hitting bonus, positioning, levels, all in the first few moments. I was actually learning how to play this game at an incredible rate. I finished the tutorial strong and I was ready for the second tutorial. Dota 2 has 5 playable tutorials, which I was surprised to see because of how much I learned in the first one. What possibly needs 5 more tutorials? Well, the thing is, it didn't actually teach me anything in tutorials 2 through 4. Tutorial 1 was titled Mechanics, a very fitting name for what I learned there. 2, 3, and 4 were titled Dragon Knight, Sniper, and Shadow Shaman. What? Confused, I scrolled through them and quickly realized it was a tutorial for the 3 classes in the game, Strength, Ability, and Intelligence, and those are the names of the characters that correspond to those classes that I would be playing in this tutorial. And the 5th tutorial is just titled Multiplayer Match. It wasn't actually a tutorial, it's a prompt that says, "Congratulations, you're ready to play." and a button that places you in a turbo queue. Confused on why that's even there, I go ahead and jump into the Dragon Knight tutorial and I hoped for the best. What happened next is jarring to say the least. I was presented with all of the champions in the game and given a timer that kept flashing, an announcer that kept urging me to ban something. I panic and press something blindly on the screen. After literally half a second, it's my turn again and I start panicking even more. I click on another character blind me and I lock in as that character. I ended up playing Zeus in that tutorial, and the entire time I had no idea what happened on the character select screen. I finished the game and I was prepared for the jump scare of the lobby that was coming in the third tutorial. I go ahead and ban a random character again, and when it becomes my turn to pick again, I couldn't find Sniper. After only 10 seconds, it starts to say that I'm losing gold for my team because of my indecisiveness, and I panic and press another character again. I got the Drow Ranger, and she was fun, but I still played a character that was not presented to me on the tutorial screen. I finished the game even more confused on why it punishes my entire team because I was slow to pick a character. Either way, the fourth tutorial arrived, and I wasn't sure about playing another entire bot match with a random character. So I tried to find where the character was on the screen, and I wasn't able to do it before I started getting punished, so I just quit. This game has a very stressful select screen. I decided I would skip the fourth tutorial and just explore the heroes list. There's a lot of fascinating and cool character designs that I found incredible. My favorite was the hero Io. Io is literally a ball of light, and I thought this was the coolest concept. Its abilities were also fascinating. It completely sacrifices its own kit to completely buff the ally it's linked to. I'm semi-familiar with this mechanic because of the goddess Aphrodite in Smite. She has similar linking capabilities, but this is taken to the next level. Overall, Dota's mechanics tutorial is an incredible experience. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It had great pacing and reward function, and it taught me everything I needed to know swiftly. The other 3 tutorials, if we can even call them that, was a complete waste of my time. It seems pointless to be shown a character before entering the tutorial, only to be placed into a generic bot match where I get to pick any character I want. Since they had the 5th tutorial not actually be a tutorial, it seems weird that they didn't just have a tab that says, pick your favorite hero from the list and enter a bot match and test them for yourself. I enjoyed scrolling through the hero tab way more than I enjoyed being forced to play those cherry-picked gods. Not that cherry-picking a hero is necessarily bad, but if they were going to present a character to me before the lobby, force me to play that character. Well, at least tell me where the character is also on the select screen. That would have been nice. Secondly, the game doesn't teach you anything about the jungle or even mention it. I was very disappointed in this. The mechanics tutorial was so thorough that it had heightened my expectations for the other tutorials. It would seem that Dota left all of the intricacies out of the tutorials. I don't actually know what the courier does, what the stash is, and a lot of other item-related things like, I don't know, stats. I also don't even know what it meant by eating a tree, as I never planted a tree, but that's on me for not exploring the tree consumable it made me buy. Overall, my experiences in the tutorials were mixed. Each game has its own way of additionally helping new players. Smite has tutorial videos that are in-game and updated once a year. It also has a mode called Jungle Practice, which is a fully fleshed out testing mode to practice in, and I was really surprised to see the other 2 games didn't have an option like this. League of Legends at least has a place where you can play completely by yourself in the Rift to test out builds and such, but it's nothing compared to Smite's Jungle Practice. And Dota 2 has nothing other than a last hit minion trainer, which is extremely useful, but as a new player there's still much to be desired. In conclusion, some of the things the games taught me were questionable. There's an underlying problem in the way these games handled their new players. How can we fix these issues? I won't keep the discussion broad, so I'll be focusing on Smite specifically as I know a thing or two about the game. Here's my opinion on how Smite should handle brand new players. Smite has the most game modes compared to League or Dota, and they are locked to new players. Smite is on the right track by locking modes until the player has more experience, and by having an auto-leveling and building system, that's one less thing the new player has to worry about. In history, Smite's premier mode Conquest was also locked, but the community fought hard for it to be opened from level 1 as an attempt to get new players into the mode quicker. First, new players should play a tutorial that's specifically designed to teach them the fundamentals of the game, and be locked out of all modes until this is done. When the tutorial starts, there should be an option for fast, normal, and long tutorial with timestamps to indicate this, as some players may be inclined to watch a 10-second video rather than a 2-minute video, or 5 minutes. In the tutorial, we should have them learn 2 characters of their choice. Smite has 10 free characters unlocked for all new players to begin with, so we should be presented with those 10 to explore. Just purely off aesthetics, new players should pick their 2 favorite characters, because if you aren't interested in who you're learning, then what's the point? My favorite character and first ever main was Ymir, because he's big and made of ice, he has this giant club, I frickin' love ice. What's not to love about this guy? He goes boom, 10 out of 10. Once decided upon, there should be an option for a slow, medium, or fast tutorial on the specific 2 characters they chose. The reason why 2 characters is better than 1 is because in the event that someone picks your favorite character, you have a fallback character. And in the event that both are taken, well, that's just bad luck. Next, they should have the player enter a co-op versus AI bot arena match and be transparent about this. That way you're with 4 other new players who don't know what they're doing against the bots that are pathetically weak. This also makes the players not feel alone in the overwhelming knowledge they're gaining right now. And they should win all of these matches. They can ask questions and enjoy the easy environment. This should happen for at least 3 matches, so the player subliminally becomes familiar with arena's ticket systems, attacking buffs, protecting waves, etc. It's okay if the new player hasn't yet mastered these things, just enough to know that they exist, and this should happen within 2 to 4 games. The player should now be presented with the option of wanting to play arena with real players. Once the new player plays another 2 to 4 real arena games, they'll have about 4 to 8 total games under their belt. They should be feeling much more comfortable with their characters and how to fight. Next, they unlock the tutorial for Joust, the most popular mode Smite has to offer. Joust is a much more complicated mode, as it involves a jungle, a fog of war, a new buff, the Demon King, towers, phoenixes, and titans. That was an overwhelming amount of changes compared to Arena, isn't it? And that's exactly why the tutorial should be required, to let the player know that, for instance, if they enter the enemy tower, it'll shoot them, or that the Demon King is an incredibly powerful enemy, but grants one of the most amazing abilities to whichever team defeats him. Now that our new players have an adequate level of knowledge about how to control their specific character, that comfortability will allow them to brave the storm of all these new complex changes. After about 2 to 4 bot matches on Joust, they should play 2 to 4 real matches. Once Joust is done, they can move on to Clash. Clash is basically Joust but with 2 lanes and 5 players. The only major difference is Bull Demon is replaced by Apophis, and that Apophis has a different reward for slaying him. Again, playing 2 to 4 bot matches followed by 2 to 4 real matches allows the player to gain relative knowledge about the mode's fundamentals. A tutorial most likely isn't required for Clash, as Apophis is the only major change, so a pop-up screen before they play their first game should be good enough. From Clash, they can move on to Conquest. Conquest is the most complicated and most competitive mode Smite has to offer, and it's most similar to League of Legends and Dota's maps. Conquest has numerous changes to this mode, but it is most similar to Clash. A full-on tutorial will need to be required, as this mode has much more intricacies, adding much more to the jungle and a lot of other changes I won't be going into here. Again, 2 to 4 bot matches and 2 to 4 real matches. Once Conquest is done, they can unlock Siege. Siege doesn't have many changes other than it's a 4v4 player mode. Another pop-up should be fine. 2 to 4 bot matches, 2 to 4 real matches. By this point in time, the player will have enough gods in their pool that they'll be able to play Assault. Assault is a 5v5 mode with 1 lane, but what makes it difficult is that you get random gods and that you may not return to the fountain to heal after leaving it. If a new player, who doesn't even know what a fountain is put on a random god they don't know how to play, and is thrown into the mix with others who have at least some competence on their god, it's going to be a slaughter. The final mode Smite has to offer is Mode of the Day. Mode of the Day is exactly that, a rotating mode that has silly rules that creates a wacky experience. This should be the last thing that is unlocked because it throws everything you'd expect from the game out of the window. Mode of the Day should be unlocked as a reward for playing through this entire process, and will not force players to play it. By this point in time, the player has played about 20 matches across the various game modes, and in those 20 matches, they've learned an immense amount of game knowledge. Additionally, by forcing players to play this many matches, it reduces the odds of Smurf accounts being made. If you don't know what a Smurf account is, a Smurf account is created by toxic people when they want to beat up new players to feel better about their lack of skill. Smurfs exist in all competitive games, but they really seem to be attracted to MOBAs. The only thing that hasn't been discussed in this process is player leveling and buying items. Buying can be left up to the in-game recommended section and auto builder. And leveling, well, that has to come down to player curiosity. Otherwise, auto-leveling gets the job done. Returning to the essential problems of the MOBA genre, it is entirely entwined in the player's own skill levels. The game is designed from its core to reward the superior player every time. The game's skill ceiling is nearly non-existent as MOBAs are constantly updating and changing in-game features in order to maintain the feeling of freshness and balance. Personally, and I think other players will agree with me on this, I find building my skill arsenal to be a rewarding challenge, and Smite has exploited me for years. Whether it was my first kill all those years ago or just another kill I got yesterday, I feel just as good when I play. With over 100 characters to choose, all of the possible item builds to try, all of the leveling orders to experiment with, all of the jungle paths and team compositions to play around with, coupled with the constant balance changes, there is an infinite amount of exploration for you to enjoy. There is always something to try, something to learn, and some way to grow. This growth is my addiction. When I've mastered a difficult task, I feel empowered and stronger. This extreme growth may be the very exact thing that's keeping you away. And that's okay. But I urge you, experiment and enjoy yourself. Get lost in it. Be confused, get defeated, and get back up again and again. I know you have it in you to learn the system. The fact that you're watching this video right now is proof of your determination to learn. You have the drive to want to take a challenge head on, and I encourage your steps toward bettering yourself. Congratulate yourself for your bravery. You deserve it. There will be things that the tutorial just can't state. That is a fact. But that is where the community comes in. The community behind these games are just incredible, and the amount of heartfelt content they pour out for us on their favorite game is astounding. They make the game as a whole a better place. Seek them out if you have any difficulties. I'm sure they'd love to answer any questions you may have. I hope I was able to inspire you into trying something new today. As a procrastinator myself, I find it very difficult to pull myself to do new things, like write an outro for this video. MOBAs have a very long way to go before they become mainstream again, but I believe that these changes can ignite the flame once again. Thank you for your time, and have a great day.